feels nice. Doesn't this feel nice? Does this feel good? This feels good. You know who's not feeling good? George. Unfortunately, he got it wrong. He had a depiction on the future. He thought that cities would be in their leftover baggage from the industrial era. Sorry? You can't hear me? Can you hear me now? Oh, that's good. Oh, that's deeper than I expected. So he thought everyone would start working in spacious isolation out in the burbs. He didn't think cities would be successful, yet he was wrong. Very wrong. And these individuals, they put together amazing depictions of the future, yet they weren't so correct. Parts of them, little snippets, have been taken out, but the grandiose vision didn't come to life. And most of them ended like this, just leftover baggage. So I'm interested in cities. These things, these large masses. And there's a couple of statistics why, because of this big statistic here. 1/5 of the world's population produce 60% of the global GDP. They account for 60 to 80% energy consumption, generate 70% human-induced greenhouse emissions. And by 2030, urban population cities will double, while the area covered by cities will triple. So they're kind of a big deal, and the way that we design with them is very important. So my name's Jake. I'm a service designer at Aurecon within the Digital Futures team. Aurecon's a big global engineering company. It's about 8,000 people strong. We do everything built, infrastructure works, energy, power plants to freeways, whatever it is within the city, we build it. And within the company, we've recently set up this new Digital Futures team. So if you think about digital in a couple of different horizons, which is how we do it, we think about it in the now situation, the horizon 2, and then the horizon 3. Digital Futures, we play with the technology, emerging tech in the horizon 2 and 3 space. Recently, we've had a big shift in management. The guy who was running Deloitte, he came on board, and now he's taken over Aurecon as a small project before he retires. And with part of that, he's interested in shaking up the role of engineers so that we don't just get bought in for projects, and we can be more like designers. And so design thinking, human-centered design is something we're pushing through the entire organisation and training our staff to do so. Will audio work if I play a video now?
When you're 4 years old, it seemed like anything was possible. Your curious nature compelled you to explore the why of things. But over time, the free thinker you were at 4 sadly faded away, and wonderment was replaced by deadlines, deliverables, rules, and regulations. You're a grown-up now, and clients look to you for the answer. You're a problem solver. You focus on the what and the how of things. What's the problem? How do we fix it? And because you're the one with the answers, you start solutionizing. But too often the why gets tangled up in uncertainty and ambiguity. Well, this is where the Aurecon design wave comes in. It helps design thinkers unravel complexity, create clarity, and invent new value through the process of exploration and experimentation. At the intersections between strategy and growth, technical expertise, delivery, creativity, and culture is design. Awakening the design thinker that's in all of us is actually good for business. As the research shows, companies that employ design thinkers simply perform better. So the time has come to make a choice. To imagine what's possible rather than strive for what's probable. Ask beautiful questions before locking onto an answer. Celebrate your inner 4-year-old as you explore the why of things. It's up to you. In the words of that famous business guru, Dr. Seuss, you have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. It's time to become future ready by design.
It is time. And so what my role does as a service designer, I look at the now bit and work with our current teams to understand what their service offering is currently. And then we look to the future. We do a bit of forecasting, foresight work, where we look to see what's potentially probable. And then we break that down into some sort of roadmap or line, and then we put some dots in the middle, which are some pilot projects, we use to get from that point, the now, to the future. Without the pilot projects, it just becomes these strategy documents that get thrown into the filing cabinet. So these are the two things I'm interested in with cities. How can, as designers, accelerate positive technological change, and how can we create positive change in our cities? So over the past couple of years, I've been involved in a couple of different projects. I started off with Terraform, then I co-founded an organisation called Creative Suburbs, community engagement stuff, Code for Australia. I was co-founded that. Has anyone heard of Code for Australia? Yes, that's fantastic. And now I'm at Aurecon. So I started off my journey at Terraform. Prior to that, I graduated as a landscape architect, came out with this huge notion that I could change cities, then ended up doing fringe development work. So packed it all up, gave it up and moved to this Ripper organisation that's a architecture not-for-profit that has a synthetic biology lab. And they're located in Brooklyn. And so we'd speculate to what the future of the city is, and we built these huge models where we'd envision whether it was transport, waste, how you travel, and the role we coined was we were this crew of urbaneers. And the urbaneer is somewhere between a planner, a scientist, and a designer. And if you're going to design future cities, maybe you have to think about all these components. You can't be isolated to one. And the more you cross the silos, the more this magic stuff happens. This is one of the projects I was involved in. It's an interesting one. So we were looking at waste, and in New York, they produce 1 million tonnes of trash a day. What do you do with all that trash? We created this mycelium structure. It's a mushroom, basically. And you would embed the mushroom into the block of trash, and over the course of a couple of weeks to a couple of months to a couple of years, it would eat away everything as strong as steel and create a organic block of trash. You could even flow energy currents through it. And we were using that as the foundations for the infrastructure itself for buildings, and it stank so bad. So there's this interesting part between the digital and physical that's now been coined as smart cities. I don't necessarily you should think of technology as the first thing within smart cities. I think livability, human needs should be at the core of this stuff. But with smart cities, to give a bit of an example, in Formula One racing, a lot of the success of the team was up to the driver, right? Back in however long before they made the cars into supercomputers, and sensors started to relay information from the cars back to all these individuals here who would better make decisions. And it wasn't a team, it wasn't up to the one driver anymore, it was a team effort. And that's what's happening with cities now. We're collecting data via IoT, sensors, anything that's collecting data, and we're better able to make decisions off it. I've been involved with a couple of projects at Aurecon where we're creating sensors like this one, and we're starting to roll out these open data portals for our projects. So this is one with the new Monash TED building. Keep it hush-hush for now, I'm not supposed to show this. But we'll put a open data portal to the new building that's been built, so that all the sensors, whether it's acoustics or lights, you can tap into the building, and then the students can start to hack away at the building, create modifications and optimise it in their own time. And And then you start to get an understanding of the environment that you're living in. And so, I can't remember what that one was about. I'm interested in this notion of the hacker. And the hacker, it's not your Keanu Reeves anymore. It's more these guys here, and this is Code for Pakistan. So Code for Australia is part of this Code for All community. There's about 50,000 hackers or civic hackers around the world that spend their own time hacking away at data, which was the notion for Code for Australia, that we could pull people from the community into the public sector where a lot of change happens and get them hacking away at stuff in their own time. And so in cities, this stuff is very important, so open data portals. And we ran a project a couple of years back with these three individuals, and they were sent into City of Melbourne, Geelong and Ballarat. And if you've heard of GovHack, which I'm sure a lot of you have, we wanted to see how much we could really pull out of GovHack. So prior to GovHack, we sent in Rosie, Ruth and Alicia, and they were tasked to understand what the challenges were at those particular councils and really pull apart who some of the stakeholders were that were going to be affected by these challenges, and what was the data that related to those particular challenges. So rather than going into GovHack with here's all the data, here's data.vic.gov, we refined to here's a couple of key areas, and these are the challenges, and these are the related data sets we want to focus on. This was an awesome example or solution that came out of it called Path to Safety, where you could basically plot your path from A to B, and it would tell you the safest route. It pulled in lighting data from the City of Melbourne, as well as other bits and pieces. And hacking doesn't necessarily need to be so digital as well. These were some projects that we got involved in with Creative Suburbs. So we started Creative Suburbs with the notion that I had ideas that I wanted to create better suburbs or cities, and I had no way of making them happen. And that was our business model, not much to it at all. And so we collected ideas from the community, and we went to a fair bit of hustling to ensure that we could kick them off. They provided fantastic collateral walking into local councils saying, here's 50,000 people who want to black out this concrete wall and paint a tiger. So with this particular project here, this really kicked it off for us, where we not only got the ideas from the community, but we crowdfunded the project, and we got the artists to take ideas from the community as well, so people could upload their ideas on what they wanted. So we built a bit of an engagement portal at the same time. This again, and cyborgs, really interested in cyborgs and how, like, we're all now cyborgs. We've got supercomputers in our pockets. It's allowing us to do anything. Have you seen that Elon Musk business article where he's like transforming brains? Jeez. It's happening right now. Singularity. And yeah, so we're all connected via these IoT devices. So I wear hearing aids. These are IoT enabled. I can connect my hearing aids to my washing machine if I wanted to. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. And the way that we interact with cities through these apps. So whether it's Tinder or Pokemon Go, Uber, it's becoming apparent the connection between our phone, our bodies and our cities. That's all I really had. That's it.